The Penfold Hearts. Some of you may have heard of Penfold before, some of you may not have. They're recently trying to make a comeback in the North America market and worldwide again, after having plenty of success over the last, well, almost 100 years. Penfold's been making golf balls for almost a century now, and honestly, it's one of those kind of brands that just has this really traditional vintage vibe to it. Everything from the marketing, the font, the logo, the style, just everything involved kind of screams vintage and classic. Now, if you don't know, Penfold got really popular in the 60s due to the James Bond movie Goldfinger, in which James Bond 007 catches Goldfinger cheating and ends up uttering an iconic line of, "Here's my Penfold Hearts, here's your ball, you cheating, lying." Penfold was a little successful before then, but after these words were uttered, their sales went through the roof, and they've kind of been that brand that everyone's like, oh, it's the James Bond ball, for quite a while. Now, recently, the reason I decided to review this golf ball now is because they have come out with a limited edition Penfold Hearts 007 line ball, as well as a bunch of accessories, and honestly, I thought it was really cool, and I thought there's no better time to buy. So let's go ahead and get into some of the marketing here. I paid $35 plus $5 shipping for this golf ball, but that's because this particular golf ball was the limited edition 007. Normally, the Penfold Hearts is $29.99 for a dozen, and it has $5 shipping, making it $35 a dozen if you just want one. Now, overall price-wise, that isn't too bad. It's a little high for what I'm seeing. It is a three-piece golf ball, but it is a iometer cover. It's not got a urethane, which most balls in that price point do. But I want to go ahead and get something out of the way right now. This is not a golf ball that is going to be great on value. And even a guy like me who bases kind of my whole channel around value and getting bang for your buck knows that this just isn't going to be that golf ball, and I'm not going to hold it to that standard. This golf ball isn't for the guy looking to get the best possible deal like a Snell or, something that's as close as he can, bang for buck value. This is for something that's more of a channel your inner James Bond, get a different ball that's going to kind of make your friends ask questions, just be different on the course. That's kind of what it's for. It's an enthusiast. It's a golf ball addict golf ball. So I understand that. So now I did mention I paid $35 essentially for this plus the $5 shipping, but I do want to go ahead and give Penfold Golf a little shout out because they did include some bonuses, which is something that a lot of companies have not done for me. And I do want to shout them out for it because I think it's great customer service. They did include a little trial pack of tees, which look hand painted. They look, again, very vintage, very classic golf. Love them quite a bit, as well as a nice sticker to go with it, and even a little ball marker that has the clubs on it. So a lot of little cheap stuff, but honestly, it's better than nothing. I give them credit for that. So shout out Penfold Golf, really appreciate that. Now let's go ahead and get into the design and look of this golf ball. So if we look on the front there, the Penfold is nice and in cursive. It really just has this classy vibe to it. I love the little heart above it. It's been that way for, like I said, almost a century now. Looks really good. And then the 007 below it really gives it an edge, honestly. It just looks like a great logo. I really love it a lot. When you get on the side here, I'm not wild about the alignment tool. I don't like the arrows. You guys know that. It says heart on the side there with the dots. It's medium. I don't like lining my ball up with it, but I will say that the thick lines do help a little bit. I just wish the arrows weren't on the end. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and do a little chipping and putting around the green. Let's see how it feels. All right, so after some chipping and putting, honestly, I'm very impressed. Just off of the chipping, it does have just a little firm press. There's a lot of feedback to it. It comes off of the club really nice. It's just really balanced. It doesn't spring off the club. There's not a lot to get used to, but it also doesn't drag back either. It just has this right amount of balance of the ball goes where you kind of expect it to go, which is nice. Honestly, there wasn't much checkup as far as a tug or a pull. It was a nice even release. The last ball I reviewed, the Zexio, had kind of a similar release. Honestly, this one was really nice too. As you saw, I made that first one. It was really nice. I mean, there was no side spin either way. It just released straight ahead, which is where I wanted. So that was very impressive. And then the putter, honestly, just has this nice firm click off of it. There's a lot of feedback. It is a little more clicky than some other golf balls I've tested, which makes me wonder about the iron shots I'm getting ready to hit. But overall, again, it was pretty easy to hit the ball toward the hole, to be honest with you, and honestly I was getting some pretty good distance feedback, so no issues there. I didn't have to readjust or get used to anything. It performs kind of just how you would expect a golf ball to. Now with that being said, let's go ahead and go to the studio. I've got some numbers for you guys. Let's see where we ended up. All right, so after doing some extensive club testing, I want to talk about the feel of this golf ball real quick, and honestly, it has a pretty nice feel to it. It is on the firmer side. It does feel a little bit more like a traditional golf ball would, kind of how, you know, the 90s and 80s would, but they have modernized it. I don't want you to think it's very rock-like and how even when you hit the sweet spot, it isn't that way. They have fine-tuned it a little bit, so when you hit the sweet spot with an iron, it honestly feels really, really good. I love the way it feels off that club. It really gives you a sense of power, like you really just hit the best shot of your life, which I like. And if it's off center in any way, either off the toe or inside heel a little bit, it does punish you quite a bit and you will feel it in your hands. Definitely a drastic difference there. However, honestly, the feel off the center of the club face feels so good, I'm going to forgive the other parts of it. I see what Penfold's going for here. I see that they're trying to get that feel that, you know, of the old golf ball without having it just be too rock-like, because let's be honest, no one wants that anymore. So let's get into these numbers now. So as far as with the wedges and everything, I did take it to the course. It holds a green just fine. Most golf balls do, especially when they're in the three-piece range like this. It has a pretty good ball flight. I would say it's about mid to high, somewhere in there. And honestly, distance-wise, I didn't have any issues with the pitching wedge as far as compression. Now, getting into the 7-iron, let's go ahead and take a look at some numbers here. As you can see, let's start with the spin there. So the spin we are looking at for the Penfold Hearts, 5.942, just slightly above what I want that sweet spot to be. Anything under 6 is perfectly fine by me, but it's just a little above the sweet spot, but overall not bad. If we go over to the 7-iron ball speed, 107.5, which is about middle of the road. It's not the fastest, it's not the lowest, it's kind of about that average. Honestly, with it being a little firmer, it's probably meant for a little bit faster of swing speeds, and that's not quite me. I'm more of the average to high, kind of that middle of the two range. So that's probably why I was getting that number. If we go over to 7-iron distance, as you can see, 160.9, which is actually, again, about average. That's about middle of the pack right there, which is, again, not bad. I didn't expect this golf ball to lead in anything, really. I just wanted it to be able to keep up, and being average does that. Looking at the 7-iron carry, 149.6, that is on the low end. So this golf ball definitely is relying on the roll afterwards. It has a little bit lower spin. It's relying on the roll to get you there, so that's kind of why you're getting some average distance there. And then last but not least, if we look at the launch angle, it is 16.6, which is, again, low to average, you know, middle of the pack or whatever. It's definitely a lower launch, but I would say probably more average than anything. Honestly, it's a lot of so far the 7-iron, everything's just kind of average. It's right in the middle. Nothing's too drastic. I think they're not trying to really go bold or anything. They're just trying to get you a good usable golf ball. So far so good. Moving along, we have the 5-iron. Let's go ahead and look at the speed there. As you can see with the Penfold Hearts, it is 4.463, which is actually the second highest I've had so far. So with a little bit less lofted club, I was getting a little bit more spin, so let's see how that affects the distance numbers. Ball speed 116.2, pretty average. Actually kind of right in the middle so far, average. That's kind of like what I've been getting, just as much as any other ball. Looking at the distance, 190.8, which is a low to average. It's not too bad, but I definitely want to see what the carry is to see how much I'm actually getting after the roll, which is 173.5. Again, average. All these numbers are like right. It's almost like if you took the other 5 golf balls that I've tested so far and did an average, that's what these Penfold Heart numbers are. So again, it's not doing anything spectacular so far, but it's just staying right in the middle of everything, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. The launch angle was 13.4, and that is actually the highest I've had so far. So this one did launch a little higher with the 5-iron, which isn't a bad thing either, because with a 5-iron, I don't mind having a little bit more launch with it, because if it's too low, you're not going to stop on a green, and you're going to get way too much roll out of it. So honestly, that number doesn't bother me. All right, so coming into the hybrid now, looking at that spin number, 3,336 RPMs, Again, about average what I've been getting. It's a little bit toward the higher end. It's kind of like the 5-iron, getting a little more spin, average to high somewhere in there. Coming over to the ball speed, 122.4, which is actually the lowest. I did notice that because the ball is firmer, I was kind of struggling to get it to compress off of this club unless it was a perfect hit. It wasn't very forgiving off of, you know, the toe hits or off the inside hits. It just really was unforgiving. If you didn't hit a dead center, it was going to punish you a little bit, but it's still not the end of the world. Looking at distance-wise, 209.8. Honestly, I was noticing it was very difficult to get this ball to go as far as the other ones. That's pretty low for the 209.8. And then if we look at the carry, 188.4, which is also the lowest so far. Not good numbers there. Just really struggled to find a consistency with the hybrid. I hope that doesn't lead to the driver, but unfortunately the 3 hybrid numbers are a little depressing. And then of course if we look at the launch angle, 11.9, that's actually one of the highest launches. So that kind of helps a little bit. I would definitely prefer it on the higher side than the lower side if I was getting less distance, just because if I was trying to stick a green with my hybrid, say I was, you know, on a long shot and I had, you know, 0 chance of sticking it, this is probably going to be the ball that gives me the best chance to do that out of what I've tested on the new monitor so far. All right, so here's the numbers that make me a little nervous, the driver. So let's go ahead and look at the spin number, 2669. Not bad. That's actually pretty middle of the road, right where I really need it to be. It's not super low by any means, but honestly, I mean, it's definitely lower than the 3000 I had with the Zexio, and even with a couple other balls I've tested, that's a pretty good range. Anything in that 26 to 2700 range is about average for me, so there's nothing wrong with that. Ball speed-wise, we are looking at 136 even, which is actually kind of right there. It is one of the lower ones I've tested, but honestly guys, all these golf balls with my driver so far have been within 1 mile an hour, so I mean we're not talking anything there. Looking at the driver distance, 246.5, which is actually tied for the second longest so far out of the balls I've tested with this new launch monitor, so actually very impressive there. Honestly, it had a pretty good response off the driver, which I was nervous about coming off that 3 hybrid. It really wasn't performing as well as I liked, but the driver honestly didn't miss a beat. It felt really good. Has a great feel to it, and I think even on off-center hits, I was still getting some pretty good distance. For some reason, the forgiveness amped up off the driver. I'm not sure why. Looking at the carry, 226.1, which is actually, again, tied for the second highest carry, so very good numbers there. And then if we come over to the launch angle, it's 15.3, which is right in the middle, average, kind of where it needs to be. It's actually the second highest so far, and if you take away that Zexio 20.3, which was ridiculous, it definitely had a higher launch, which I think actually helped it for the distance. All right, so after viewing those numbers, let's go ahead and take a look at the durability. So I gotta be honest with you here, the last golf ball I tested I was not very happy with when it came to the durability. However, this is a nice breath of fresh air. As you can see from these pictures, honestly, it's still got a couple dirt marks and grass marks and all that, but this golf ball has basically no rips, no tears, maybe just a couple scratches, and that is after over 100 shots. Yes, most of the time when I come to the testing, I only do about 50 to 60, 70, somewhere in there, but this one I did take to the course and play with it a little bit because I did want to see how it would perform on approach shots, whether or not it sticks a green, which it does, and it does beautifully. The wedge performances was really great there, but honestly, there's just not much as far as deficiencies on this golf ball. This thing just really seems to perform well. And honestly, if it can take over 100 shots, you're looking at probably about 2 rounds that'll last you. I mean, remember, I'm hitting into a very, very strong, hard net, and it's still performing very well. So that means that if you're just hitting it on the course, I expect this golf ball to last you 2 to 3 rounds, to be honest with you, but that's, of course, if you don't lose it. All right, so all in all, that begs the question of who is this golf ball for? Where at the beginning of this video, I did mention that it's really for that classic nostalgic golfer, and really as long as this golf ball holds up, it'll be just fine. After the numbers, it definitely keeps up with the competition for sure. It's not going to break any new barriers or set any new standards, but it's not trying to. It's trying to produce a classy nostalgic golf ball for classy golfers that want to channel their inner James Bond on a round of 9, and I think it fits that really well. I do love this collection Penfold's done with the 007. Definitely snag some accessories or whatever up if you're a James Bond fan or you love 007 movies, because I think it's going to be pretty short-lived and I think it'll sell fast. And I'm not with Penfold, I'm just telling you because I think it's cool. I think this golf ball does hit a lot of the right notes for me. The thing is, it does feel a little firmer than I like, but again, remember, back in the day, golf balls were firm. They all felt like rocks. You know, top flights, max flies, everything felt very hard and firm. That was just how golf balls were made. And I think that this is definitely going for that style of feel, but they did kind of put a modern twist on it. It might be the only modern twist they've really put on it. Other than that, it does feel like a very classic golf ball. And if you're into that type of thing, if you're a golf ball addict, definitely buy a couple of them or a dozen or whatever and just play with them on the occasion. Guys, appreciate you being here as always. Keep watching and keep saving, keep learning. And as always, thanks guys, appreciate it.